Salute! Remind us. Tanima wethu. Molweni emakhaya kwindawo ngendawo enikuzo. Dumelang bakhayesu. Hawusheng bakayena. Remind us, today I welcome you to this series, the Reminder series again. I want us to look at the structure of divinity today. Structure of divinity. Why must we do that? So we can understand our part in divinity, in the structure of divinity as people. But to do that a bit more easy, because we want to simplify it, we have to ask for the wisdom inside our body cells. We're going to have to look at ourselves, what they do, how they're structured, in a simplified version, in order for us to understand ourselves outside of ourselves in the physical world, how we are part of divinity. So let's go. Let me just talk about a cell a little bit, or cells, body cells. And what is a body cell, or what are body cells? Body cells are actually the building blocks of our bodies, right? Inside and outside. We are made of body cells. So they make things like body tissues, body organs, all different kind of the things that are in us are made of cells, different kind of cells. But now, I want to get it a little bit deeper inside the cell, one cell, just one cell. Let's talk maybe about that very first cell. That cell and all the other cells thereafter. They are actually having right at the center of them what we call a nucleus. It's the light of the cell. And that nucleus inside of it is what we call, normally we call it DNA. Then in the DNA itself, we got what we call the genes. The genes. Now let's look a little bit in those genes. Those genes, what makes up those genes? Inside those genes, there is something very, very important there, which is called the basis, otherwise the foundation, or the foundations of the gene. They are called bases. There are 4 bases inside the gene. They've got the English names. Accordingly, they are called the adenine, the thymine, the guanine, and the cytosine, sorry. Now, those 4, they also produce another 4 and produce another 4. So now there are 3 4s. So it's 4 and 4 and 4. That is a group. Once they are like that, they form a group. That group won't be added by any other base. That's how the cells are building up inside the gene. They build up in groups, which are groups of 3s, but it's 4, 4, 4. So it's actually 12 bases inside each and every gene to make a gene unit. Obviously, they will divide, the cells will divide, the genes will also divide. In other words, trying to make more genes to do the functionality, all the functionality. For instance, the DNA itself has got what we call a double helix inside the chromosomes. The double helix is like the twisted rope with these bars. These they call the genetic strands, the gene strands. Those 12 bars per unit, they make what we call the gene strands, the bases. So now, for instance, they will divide to make things like the RNA. The DNA will end up making things like RNA. RNA is responsible for the proteins in our bodies, different kind of proteins for growth and development. Now, going forward, the genes themselves will create more groups. Those groups that accordingly are 4, 4, 4, 12 per gene unit. Then they will multiply those groups. The very first thing that happens inside there, that 12, actually that 12 has got a copy behind. Each base has got a copy behind. It copies itself. So it's like the origin, and it's got a copy behind. So when you see one base, like adenine or thymine, it's also got a copy behind it. That copies exactly what it does this side. It can copy as it is. to the back of it. So when you see 1, it's actually 2. So if you see 12, it's actually 24. So maybe let's look at it this side. So the whole gene unit, we can say it's the 1 part original cell. But then it's got 4 bases, 12. That become 12 at the end of the day in that one group. That group of 12 has got copies behind each one of them. So it's 12 and 12, which now is 12 and 12, which gives you 24. Now this already has got the code. Those bases are called the codons. They carry the genetic code, all the information, all the knowledge, all the instructions, the whole biological memory or ancestry. If you are a person who is your father and your mother, down to your children, but it also carries it backwards towards your ancestry, even a spiritual ancestry, not only the biological ancestry. To the point that the knowledge that is there can be to the extent that even your death date is known inside those codons, is carrying the code, the gene code, or what the others call it, the God code. Now, those are genetical elders, that 24. They are responsible for the divine unity, the oneness of the gene and the whole body, the body cells, all the body cells. And all the knowledge up and down, back and forth. But then they give children by multiplying, the 12 multiplying itself to 144. The 144 then gives rise to what we call now the genetic chiefs. As you see this side, you've got the genetic chiefs, because the 12 strands multiply themselves by themselves to make 144. Is for functionality. These now are like CEOs inside the bodies, inside the cells. They are responsible for the operation, from the conceptuality of life to the operationality of life inside our chemical bodies. And then they go down, these shifts, wanting to split their jobs further down by creating a situation where they need assistance. 1,000 assistants. If we look here, they need messengers. Each one now of the 144 will need 1,000 messengers to make 144 times 1,000, making 144,000. Now, these are responsible for our character building and everything, the morality, all the functionality. We can call them judges. These are genetic judges or the chemical judges within ourselves. They give us things like the kindness. If you talk about love, they are responsible for that conduct, peace, kindness. You can name it, long suffering. They look at our character traits. These groups now, called the genetic judges. Now, they want to split their work further down to simplify it by asking for other assistance. Each one of them, each one of the 144,000 needs at least 1,000 to split down its work into smaller units. Now, the 144,000 now becomes 144 million. The 144 million now means more groups, gene groups, that are in all the cells, doing the work in our bodies, making those tissues, making those body organs, doing the work that is happening inside of our cells, the blood and everything is in there. Now, the most important thing, this takes a genetic time to happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a genetic time and genetic cycles and genetic generations inside of our body. Some cells die quickly. Some other cells, they live longer. The nerve cells, they hardly get replaced. Some cells get replaced a bit faster in shorter cycles. But if we complete the cycles inside the genes, we can just say completion. We said the other day, 7 means the completion of cycles. So if we multiply all the work by 7 generations, for instance, completion of cycles, then our 144 million activities become a complete number of 144 million times 7. All the completion of cycles gives us a number, a very important number here in divinity. 1,000,000,008 or 1B8M. 1,000,008,000,000. This number is the most sacred number in divinity, because a cell by nature can allow itself so much activity because it is like a city there, a whole lot of happening, a chemical city. Cells are like chemical galaxies. They are even like universes and multiverses. They are like, even electrons are like planets, you know, going in their orbits around the nucleuses. So there is just a galaxy and galaxies and solar systems inside our bodies. That helps us to understand because it copies out to the physical world that we see every day on Earth and in the skies and in the planets, as it is inside, exactly outside. Now, a cell cannot overpopulate itself. By putting a limited number of the contents, it's like putting chemical people in a planet that cannot overpopulate. Once you overpopulate, you mess up the planet, you overpopulate it, then the behavior is not going to be right there. All right, the moment we go beyond 1 billion million, because this structure is exactly good outside as it is good inside, is good the same way outside in the physical world. A planet like our Earth, for instance, naturally in a good state, it will take 1,000,000,008,000,000 people. That's what the others are saying. These are the original gods. The moment we overpopulate the planet, you are like overpopulating maybe a cell or a group of genes, you know, then you're creating a situation where functionality there is not going to be all right. So you do things like gene mutation, the coding becomes messed up, the genetical coding, the codons begin to produce information that is not natural. We begin to see immorality and things like that. Greed, all those kind of things. The things that are behind it now become up front, upside down, and all those things. Now we're creating a world by overpopulation. We're creating a situation that is out of control. For instance, if we can multiply this number by another 7, as we see in the world, we are not 1,000,000,008,000,000 anymore. We are more 7 times than that to 8 times. For instance, 1,000,000,008,000,000 in the world today is more than 7 billion. We are between 7 billion and 8 billion, which means it's like 1,000,000,008,000,000 original people that are supposed to be here without infringing on plants and animal life, everything in line, no problems. But then you multiply that by 7 as it is today, or 8. You got a situation, 1,000,008,000,000 times 7, you got now 7 billion all of a sudden. 7,056,000,000 or more. Now, that is a world. We have deteriorated to a state of confusion. We're creating what we call Babylon. We're going to start to see greed, gluttony, we're going to start to see immorality. We see here, there is no killing in this situation. Everybody goes at the right time. In fact, here, people don't die. They live in a state of up to 7,000 years. Perfect natural state, health-wise, everything, morality and everything, higher standards. That's why they call the original gods, or the descendants of the original gods. A planet like that is like that, and then people start going out to give the chance for others to come in generations of 1,000. After 7,000 years, the first generation of 144 million goes out, and then the next one is coming in to keep that number there at that level. And then 144 million will always go out when to give a chance to the next one to come in. So that number will never exceed there. Life continues for years and years and years and years and years, but each individual will live for 7,000 years max, except those who will stay longer, just like our genes, that tend to live longer without replacing for certain functionality and leadership, even divine leadership. But now we've got a problem, because this situation has been created in the world where we have overpopulated the planet. Now people are seeing this structure is wrong. Talking 7 billion is a wrong thing. 8 billion is a wrong thing. Way overpopulated, 7 times, 8 times. Now people want to reverse this. Now they start talking about killing even up to half of this 3 billion. How can you do that? How are they going to do it? these are the talks they're having. So maybe I must play you a video clips to show you exactly what they are planning. Quickly, there is a cell, there is a nucleus there. So all the activities inside the cells there, the organelles, called the organelles, all the different parts in that city center there, in that city there, cell city. Various people, chemical people doing their jobs. Those are your chromosomes there. Chromosomes, they tend to coil like this. You got your DNA, the double helix, that rope, those two ropes that are doing that's called a double helix. With those strands in between those bars, those are genetic bars or genetic strands or those genetic bases. Right, I want to just play you that video clip when they say they want to change this situation and reduce it maybe by half. Let's hear these people, what are they saying here?
Intentionally using synthetic molecules, which by design are cancer, AIDS, all of the
it's for the purpose of sterilization and population control. There's too many people on the planet we need to get rid of. In the words of Bill Gates, at least 3 billion people need to die. So we'll just start off in Africa. We'll start doing our research there, and we'll eliminate most of the Africans because they're deplorable. They're worthless. They're not part of this world economy. So they have their rights taken away, and they're suppressed, and they're experimented. And
I hope you've heard that. Now, you can check it for yourself. It's actually a judicial commission of inquiry on the weaponization of the biosphere. In other words, how you use the chemicals, medicines, and things like that to weaponize it. So I'm going to pass the reminders quickly. I think I would just want to do that closing statement. But before I do it, we are part of this physically outside of ourselves. We are part of divinity. The divine God that we're talking about is the oneness of all God's people. All God's people, they are spirit, they are one spirit. It makes that God that we say is God, but it's a divine unity of all of us. And then we've got our elders meditating, keeping that unity together because they got their source of knowledge. They give us that knowledge, how to live life in a moral situation, in a normal situation. When we close, I would like to just read these words. You've heard it. What you maybe didn't see here, let me go back a bit. You will realize there's even a judge there in that commission. Right. Now, I would like to close with this statement. The immorality in the judgment seat, and the filthiness in the bed of dreams, all call for mournful mowing of our hair and the shameful shaving of the beard of all the men of the motherland. We all, unfortunately, desperately in need of a genetic cleansing. Remind us. Salute. NdimloNdikho. Till next time.